All right, gang, it looks like we are live. Come on in, one and all. It is Live Stream Friday. Great to have you all here as you come on in. What do you say about these last couple of weeks? My heavens. I don't even know where to begin, but I thought the theme we would touch on today is a number of articles have been coming out of late on how the Republican Party is now officially getting purged of neocon rhinos. As hard as that might be to believe, it does seem to be happening. So come on in, one and all. It is Live Stream Friday. Got lots of stuff to talk about. Smack that bell and subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We got so much to address, especially with regard to this great purge that has begun. And yes, I'm talking about Rhino neocons from the Republican Party. Here you guys, come on in. Look at you. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, 4 billion plus. Good morning, all. Good morning. Good morning. Great to see you guys. Hey, Monica, hello from PA. Yeah, you got quite the primary coming up there. That's going to be awesome. Look at you guys coming on in, one and all. Yeah, I gotta do a better job about setting up the time for this thing so I don't like just interrupt your day. You know, it'd be nice to come to the channel and say, oh, we got a live stream in 45 minutes or so, but that's me. We've got about we have over a dozen people behind the scenes here at Turley Talks, and they can all tell you how scatterbrained I am. All I basically do is read, write, and speak. That's about all I'm good for at this point. And I play a little guitar. I'm trying to get that back into the channel too. That'd be a lot of fun. We do have a great piece from Watch. Great to see you guys. Come on in. Excellent. Yes. TJ, another Pennsylvaniite. Great. Yes. Mega MAGA. That's right. Ultra MAGA. Ultra MAGA. By the way, you know, just a quick plug for our store. We do have new Ultra MAGA shirts in that you are going to love. I mean, they're literally hot off the press. And so go to store.turleytalks.com. You can click on the link below as well. Get one for yourself. Get one for the patriots in your life. You'll love it. Ultra MAGA, man. I've got my, let's see, I'll read it on the screen here. I need new conspiracies because all the old ones keep coming true. That's my favorite little shirt there. So come on in, gang. We do have this piece by the Washington Examiner that's talking about how Trump is effectively beginning the purge of neocons. We're going to talk about how complicated that is because I know many of you are concerned that Trump has actually endorsed some rhinos, some neocons. So we're going to talk about that as well. And of course, we've got Super Chat on. So if you have any questions, bring them up because we see the left is falling apart all over the place. If you think about it, we can somewhat sympathize, perhaps. Well, sympathize is too strong of the word. We can understand why the left is having a collective temper tantrum as we speak. If you think it through, they've lost Twitter and Roe v. Wade all in the span of basically a week. I mean, and they don't have the cognitive bandwidth to handle that. I mean, losing Twitter was bad enough. Losing Roe v. Wade, let me get my coffee here. I got my coffee. It's not even my mug. I should have one of my mugs out here, but at last, I grabbed my coffee quick. Losing Roe v. Wade is like losing, you know, their First Amendment or something like. I mean, right? Because they think it's in the Constitution. So that's bad enough. It's like a sacrament for them. But to lose both in the span of a week, they just don't have the bandwidth. So we got our Super Chats up. So if any of you have a question, I'll try to answer it as we go through our live stream. Great to have you guys. Great way to finish out the week. And before we begin, gang, I know a lot of you already know this, but we did get remonetized on YouTube. Thanks to you. Thank you guys for helping me fight cancel culture. I've experienced that firsthand of how big tech is trying to get rid of free speech. And these really are important times to understand how to stand up effectively to cancel culture and cancel culture, just like what Elon Musk and President Trump are doing. So as a thank you to all of you for your support over the last month, I am hosting an absolutely free training webinar on canceling cancel culture 1 week from today. It's Friday, May 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern. It's my gift to you, absolutely free. We're going to take a deep dive together next Friday the 13th and learn all about canceling cancel culture. But here's the kicker. We're almost out of spots. We only had, at the beginning, 3,000 spots available. That's all our Zoom software can hold. We completely sold out the last time we did this in 2 days. Well, as of the last 2 days, we're almost all sold out. So, sold out. You know what I mean. All the positions all the seats are almost taken. So don't wait, okay? Make sure to click on the link below, sign up for this free webinar, or you can go to update.turleytalks.com. That's update.turleytalks.com. Sign up for this event. This topic is more important than ever, and I cannot wait to see you next Friday. All right, so let's dive right in here. This has been an astonishing week. I mean, it really has, if you think it through. We have had an incredible streak of winning. And what we're going to talk about today is really just topping off a streak of wins that actually have been going on for some time now. Benny Johnson did a really nice job. He tweeted out this, quote, Elon owns Twitter, CNN Plus destroyed, Rittenhouse innocent, Smollett guilty, Disney groomer stock collapsing, Hunter Biden investigated, Durham indictments, school board revolutions, parents Hispanics breaking Republican, mask mandate repealed, Roe v. Wade overturned. Are we winning? Yes. Are you not entertained? And we are. We most certainly are. I think it's very clear here that we can top off this massive streak of winning with the primary results that came out last Tuesday that happened in Ohio, Indiana, and Nevada. We did a video on that on Wednesday morning detailing those results. But as many of you know, all of Trump's 22 endorsed candidates won on Tuesday, signaling not merely the solidification of Trump's dominance over the GOP, but increasingly a full and final purge of RINO NEOCONS from the Republican Party. And that's what a number of articles are talking about since the fallout of the primaries on Tuesday. And I've got one in particular from the Washington Examiner that's entitled J.D. Vance and Don Jr. initiate the GOP's 2022 purge of the neocons. JCS, Biden 2024, JK. You caught me. I'm just reading it off. Biden 2024. I don't know if he'll be around 2024. JK, Trump 2024. Awesome, JCS. Awesome. That's right. That'll get you your $2 right there. That's awesome. Yeah, imagine that. I mean, are even any Democrats coming out saying Biden 2024? I mean, it just has this weird... I mean, it was one thing to say Biden 2020. That was silly enough, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But, I mean, actually, Biden 2024, it's almost inconceivable. But anyway, you've got this piece by Tiana Lowe for the Washington Examiner talking about GOP's 2022 purge of the neocons. It's a great piece. And I think she's really on to something here. And this is how she begins. And I want to analyze this and take a deep dive with you to finish off our week with. So here's how she writes. Until the end of April, J.D. Vance's storied career as a self-made middle American memoirist, conservative firebrand, and venture capitalist risked sputtering out as a third place also ran in Ohio's Republican Senate primary. All of that changed with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a single debate, and the singular resolve of Vance, and also that of former President Donald Trump and his son to stand against dragging America into another war and neocons like Josh Mandel. Josh Mandel being one of his major, opponents in that primary in Ohio. Don Trump Jr., the Trump with the most careful finger to the pulse of the GOP heartland, was paying close attention to Vance. From February, Vance was willing to take ample public pushback for refusing to peddle the same hysteria about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And the real point of inflection came in March when Josh Mandel, his opponent, letting the MAGA mask slide for a second, endorsed a European-led no-fly zone over Ukraine while Vance held firm. And this is something we've been talking about a lot on this channel, the hysteria of the neocons and the neolibs to get us into a war with Russia, and how many, like Sean Insanity and Mark Levin and others, have been so supportive of such an insane and ludicrous idea. Every single Ohio Republican Senate candidate for the Republican Senate nomination supported that insanity, except J.D. Vance. And that's what got Trump's attention. At the debate, J.D. Vance said this, quote, "I think it's disgusting that for 4 years, Donald Trump could not get $4 billion out of the Republican Congress to build a wall at the southern border. And meanwhile, Joe Biden got $14 billion in an effing week." He didn't say the effing. I say that because I get so upset about it. He got $14 billion in a week to send to Ukraine. And we could say a corrupt organization that made Hunter Biden a millionaire to boot. So I got to say, I think that line was brilliant. This was a brilliant one-liner because it perfectly summarized the fundamental disconnect between Rhinos and the rank-and-file Republican. The rank-and-file Republican wanted a border, the constituents, the Republican voter, wanted a border wall, whereas Rhinos didn't, right? Because that stands against their globalist values. Whereas war with Russia, the most anti-globalist nation on the planet, that war is perfectly consistent with globalist values, values that the rank-and-file Republicans simply abhor. We do not share, okay? So it's the same thing, by the way, going on in Britain. We have a really interesting study that came from the Chatham House, which is a think tank, a British think tank. And they found that 80% of the British political class believe that immigration is always good for Britain, whereas not even 20% of the British public believe that. That's the massive divide that's opened up between the people versus the permanent political class. So this Washington Examiner piece is pointing out here that this guy, Josh Mandel, who tried to portray himself as a standard bearer, a faithful adherent, as it were, for MAGA, for America First, he ended up inadvertently pulling the mask off when on the debate stage he said he was all for the globalist politics of starting a proxy war with Russia by instituting a no-fly zone. Let me get your super chats as they do come in here. Last time I missed a couple. Do you think Trump can control the American collapse that Brandon wants to generate? Wololos. Great question. Yes, to an extent. I don't think it's just Trump. I think it's going to be the Republican Party and Patriots as a whole that are going to be able to limit the societal collapse that Brandon, thank you for that, is bringing about. But the question, of course, is how much damage is Brandon going to be able to inflict in the meantime, especially with the mess at the southern border, and the possibility of an all-out World War III brought to you by Sean Hannity. So I'm nervous about the damage that they can inflict in the meantime. But I think 2024 is going to be very, very powerful for not just the 2022 midterms, but the 2024 presidential election would be very powerful for getting our nation back, at least at this point. We shall see. All right, Bridget, what'd you get for me, Bridget? Here, sorry, I'm getting the super chats coming on in. Oh, Bridget, you just gave a gift. Thank you, Bridget. Very, very kind of you. Thank you very much. Nikki, thank you for your interview with Kathy Barnett. Yeah, I'm definitely voting for Doug Mastriano in the primaries on the 17th in PA. Both MAC, absolutely. I'll be at Mastriano's victory party on the 17th. So I'll be in your neck of the woods if you want to come on out. Or I don't know if it may be invitational, not to sound elite, but I'm just saying I'm supposed to speak there. So anyway, yeah, absolutely. Kathy Barnett's a gem. I love her. She's doing great, and she's surging. She's really turning into that Rocky candidate, that Philly candidate. So Tom Greer, Tom, thank you so much. Very sweet of you. Appreciate that super chat. You guys are very, very kind. So yeah, I mean, when all is said and done, Ukraine serves absolutely no America First national purpose whatsoever. And only one candidate in Ohio's Senate race for the Republican nomination was willing to say that. And that was J.D. Vance. And then he was willing to say, thanks, David and Melissa. Very, very, very kind of you. He was willing to say, but the border wall is primary to an America First national interest, and yet the Republicans wouldn't give us the $4 billion for the wall, and yet they'll throw billions over to Ukraine. So it was a great one-liner that he had, and it really brought to the fore the fundamental difference between America First and these neocons. Thinking for myself, good morning, Dr. Steve from Les and Ann. Good to see you guys. We're always so encouraged by you, and thank you for helping us see the truth through all these crazy. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome, and I just do my best with analysis here. I'm just one voice of many that you could listen to, of course. So I just appreciate that so much. God bless you guys. You're awesome. Thank you. All right, so let's keep going. Apparently, Don Jr. was listening. According to the Rolling Stone interview that he gave, the former first son, as well as Tucker Carlson, one of Vance's few longtime backers, specifically cited Vance's opposition to a no-fly zone in Ukraine, which would be tantamount to America entering a hot war against a nuclear power when personally lobbying the former president. And listen to this. As emissaries of the so-called new right, Don Jr. and Tucker know Vance understands what time it is in the conservative movement. The social issues of the day include championing taxpayers and parents to reclaim schools from intersectional terrorists. That's coming from this article. From intersectional terrorists and teachers unions, not a gay marriage debate from the last century, from the 1990s. And if the number one national issue for Republicans is fixing the Brandon economy, the number one intra-party issue is purging what remains of the neocons. Donald Trump spent 4 years ousting the GOP's warmongers into the green rooms of CNN and MSNBC and reforming the party into one of foreign policy realism. But those gains mean nothing if a Bill Kristol acolyte in favor of starting World War III becomes the Republican senator from Ohio, of all places. Critics may mock the vicissitudes of Vance's manner and alliances, but on the issues, he held rock steady when it mattered. In a city where the Ukrainian flags outnumber American flags, i.e. D.C., Vance stood against the Beltway lust of bombing for peace, and the Trump son made sure the party patriarch came through for his legacy when it mattered. It's a great piece, I gotta say, and according to this Washington Examiner piece, What happened in Ohio is basically a microcosm of what's happening to the Republican Party as a whole. We talked about the specifics of the 22 Trump-endorsed candidates who won their primaries. But I think we need to take a wider lens. Thank you, Martin. Very sweet. We need to take a wider lens to this purge and see what's really happening here. Again, if you're just coming and joining us, gang, I see we're getting a whole host of people coming in. For those of you who just joined, make sure to click on the link below. Sign up for a free training webinar on canceling cancel culture next Friday, week from today, May 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern. It is my gift to you. Absolutely no charge. We're going to take a deep dive together next Friday, the 13th, learn everything we need to know about canceling cancel culture, but we are almost out of spots. It's free. Our Zoom software only allows for 3,000 open spots. We're almost sold out. So if you want to be with me live at 2 p.m. next Friday, you got to click on that link right now and sign up. We're almost done. So it's gonna, for all I know, by the end of this by the end of this live stream, they're going to be all gone, all the spots. So go quick. And even if you can't be there, believe it's absolutely getting recorded, so you'll be able to watch it afterwards. So don't wait. Click on the link below and sign up, and I'll see you on Friday. All right. So what's going on with rhinos and with these neocons and the like? I think we have to understand this purging from the vantage point of two vantage points. Okay, we have to understand this purging from two vantage points. Okay, one vantage point is understanding what's happening in the political party proper, and that's what this article in the Washington Examiner is talking about. What's happening with the actual leadership and rank and file of the Republican Party. That can be actually very frustrating. I know a lot of you worried about the whole thing with Trump endorsing, for example, Dr. Oz instead of Kathy Barnett. Kathy Barnett is a true MAGA patriot. If you haven't checked out my interview with her, she's got an amazing story. She is surging in the polls. She may pull this off in a rocky upset and beat the Apollo Creed Dr. Oz. So definitely check out that interview. But I know many of you are upset about that. And that's the intra-party vantage point. That's both cool with J.D. Vance and also upsetting with someone like a Dr. Oz. So that's one vantage point that we have to understand this purge process from, however interrupted it may be with some bad endorsements. But then there's another vantage point that's a much bigger, larger vantage point. And that's, we have to understand this purge from the vantage point of the people. What's happening at the ground floor, as it were, at the grassroots, the rank and file. The problem is that if we're only looking at the purge from the vantage point of what's happening within the political establishment, within the structures of the Republican Party, we can end up getting very discouraged because we can see Trump endorsing candidates that are clearly neocon rhinos, or we could be disheartened over, a primary that one of our candidates lost, or whatever. Okay, that's all true. That's all part of it, but that's only one side. What we have to do is we have to understand this purge happening at another level as well. And that's the revolution that's happening among the people, all right, on the ground floor and the grassroots, because that's going to help us to predict the trajectory of what's going to happen to the party as a whole. We have to have a very keen eye on the changing sentiments that are marking the changing constituencies of the Republican Party, because they are the ones who are voting in the primaries. They're going to give us a very good sense of where the party is ultimately headed. Okay, let me see. Let me just make sure I got all my... Yes, all right, good. So, just checking and making sure I didn't get any of the super chats unanswered. I did that last week, and I felt guilty for ages. I couldn't enjoy my weekend. All right. So, now, I do think, by the way, that over time, these two vantage points meet, right? These two levels of analysis meet what's going on in the political party proper and what's going on at the grassroots. They do harmonize, and we're going to see that harmony more and more as we go along. And that's certainly what this Washington Examiner article predicts. But we have to understand these two vantage points and how they are distinct and then how they are going to come together. This is good because we are in the midst of a transition when it comes to the Republican Party. And in order to understand this transition, we have to make a distinction between these two vantage points, what's happening among the people and what's happening in the party itself. All right. What do we got? Oh, we're back. Wolalos. Oh, that's why a lot of Democrats change sides. They want to control the Republican future. We need to take out the right. Now, that's true, Wolalos. We do have to be careful with that, but we actually don't have a lot of evidence for that. We actually don't. The evidence that we have, and I'll work this out for you as we go through this live stream, is that the Democrats that are defecting the Republicans are actually making the Republican Party more patriotic, more MAGA. They're the driving force, actually. So that's a really important part. But no question, they could do that theoretically to try to upset. They did that in the 2000 election primary, where a bunch of Democrats were jumping ship and becoming Republicans and voting for John McCain, for example. But it seems like we've gone past that now. The Democrats that have defected are so overwhelmingly patriot-based. They were the labor Democrats of old, the white working class. And it's not just happening in the United States, it's going on in Europe as well. They're defecting to the right because in many ways the left has left them. But anyway, let's see. Jorge Moreno, Dr. Steve, you're awesome. Do you have a list of the rhinos from Illinois? Thank you. Yes, I just put in a note. One of the things, so we do have a list of our rhino hunting list coming out. We were very, very concerned that there would be non-rhinos on there. So the research to vet all the names that are on the directory it's taking longer than we thought. But I had a call in, and I was told I was supposed to get something sometime today. Now, in Illinois, I don't know if your problem is rhinos as much as it is Democrats, like what we have here in Delaware. I mean, it's almost like, all right, the first and fundamental problem is Democrats. They're the ones standing in line, winning by 20 percentage points. Amria, thank you so much for that. They're winning by 20 points and the like. Chicago has an inordinate influence over Illinois politics, even though the Southern Illinois is so radically conservative, just like Wilmington has an inordinate influence over Delaware politics, even though Southern Delaware tends to be much more conservative. So anyway, hopefully we'll have something for you on that very soon. The distinction we need to make as we understand the purge of rhinos is we have to make a distinction between a populist right party and a populist light party. Many of you who've been in this channel for a while remember this distinction, okay? It's an important one to try to make sense, to analyze what's going on here with these rhinos eventually fully getting purged, which I think they will. Or, there'll be a dinosaur here or there, but more or less they are gone, and I'll show you why I think that. So we got a populist right party and a populist light party. So a populist right party is a MAGA party from top to bottom, okay? From bottom to top. All rhinos, all neocons have either left the party or they've adjusted themselves to the new political reality, like Lindsey Graham does periodically, or maybe even Marco Rubio has been doing a bit. But nevertheless, eventually, even the Grahams and the Rubios are gone. It's a full-blown patriot party. And that's what we're seeing in Europe with a lot of these third parties that are starting. We'll find out why they're starting. The third parties like Lega in Italy, or the Brothers of Italy. Of course, National Rally of Marine Le Pen, the Sweden Democrats. Fidesz party in Hungary, the Law and Justice Party in Poland. We could go on and on. AfD in Germany. These are patriot parties through and through. There is a perfect harmony, as it were, between the grassroots and the leadership, right? The values of the grassroots are the values of the leadership. I was having a Biden moment there. On the other hand, you have what we would call a populist light party, and that's a party that has a MAGA base, a nationalist populist grassroots, but a neocon establishment leadership. And so while the Rhino neocon establishment is certainly very happy to get all the electoral rewards of the growing populist movement by winning elections and the like, they still have a thoroughly establishment mentality, which causes them to govern according to the values, interests, and concerns of the permanent political class, which are radically at odds and alienated from the values, interests, and concerns of the grassroots of the people. And this is because a populist right party and a populist light party operate by two fundamentally different politics, right? The populist right party is a politics of faith, family, and freedom. It's a politics where the permanent political class is seen as inherently vicious and as inherently detrimental to the flourishing of a society, whereas a populist light party governs according to the values, interests, concerns of the ruling class and sees the challenging of those values, interests, and concerns as nothing less than a challenge to democracy itself, right? So this is the party of the likes of Mittens Romney. This is the party of Paul Ryan, though we got rid of him, right? This is a party of Liz Cheney. They see the Republican Party literally as nothing more than a special interest group for the establishment swamp. So with that distinction between populist right versus populist light, the Republican voter, we have to understand, is dramatically changing the Republican Party because the Republican voter is dramatically changing. All right? So what we have to understand is the reason why we know that eventually the Republican Party is going to be a fully populist right party is that the ones who are voting are changing dramatically. And eventually that change, thanks, Stephen, very appreciated. And eventually that change does work its way out into the political party proper. And we'll see how it's working itself out in two ways. And by the way, guys, just as a plug, as I'm gathering my thoughts, if you haven't already seen it, we got a bunch of the Ultra MAGA shirts in, brand new merch shirts if you want to support this channel, as well as spread Patriot hope and stick it to Biden. We have brand new Ultra MAGA shirts, what Biden tried to disparage us with the new deplorables comment. We got a brand new. Click on the link below or just go to store.turleytalks.com. That's store.turleytalks.com. Grab one for yourself. Grab one for a patron in your life. They're awesome. I've got mine coming in the mail. I cannot wait. We are ultra MAGA from this point forward. Tracy, what's up, Trace? Got you here, girl. Remember when libs were the party of the 99%? Now they're run by the 1%. Why are they so blind? So true. Well, I think it's a lack of self-awareness. That's clearly the case, right? They're so hypocritical because they don't see themselves in their critiques. And that's in a classical Christian sense, that's because of a lack of humility. I think in a classical wisdom sense, I think that goes even beyond just Christian frames of reference. In a classical wisdom sense, they lack humility. They are an incredibly arrogant and prideful lot. And so, yeah, they don't see how they've become the war party. They don't see how they've become the party of the rich and the glamorous, of the 1%, as you rightly say. So you're absolutely right on that. And I just think it's a lack of self-awareness, and a lack of self-awareness comes from comes from a lack of humility. That's why we always look, I'm a full believer in calling out lies and evil and so forth. I don't even technically, for me, I'm not even beating up on Joe Biden himself. I'm sure he's a relatively decent yet very corrupt guy. I get it. There's a lot of corruption out there. I get it. But it's what he represents. It's the world he embodies that is evil, and that needs to be confronted. And so that's how I see Soros. That's how I see all these guys who and Lindsey Graham, and why I've been so hard on Sean Hannity. I think they are embodying, they are symbolic of a world much, much larger than themselves. And so stating that, we still have to always be reflective. To what extent am I contributing in that fall, as it were? To what extent am I contributing in that sin? And that's what humility will give to us, and that will give us a sense of self-awareness, and hopefully we won't fall victim to the absurdity of these leftists. Douglas Miller, thank you for years of positivity. Thank you, Douglas. Well, again, I mean, we've had a great I appreciate the years, because we've had our ups and downs. It's the same consistent message, but as you can see, this last week in of itself bears repeating. If you didn't hear it, I read Benny Johnson's Twitter that was just celebrating our winning. Elon owns Twitter. CNN Plus destroyed. Rittenhouse innocent. Smollett guilty. Disney groomer stock collapsing, and boy, is it collapsing. It hit, 60 bill the other day of lost market value. Hunter Biden investigated. Durham indictments. School board revolutions. Parents, Hispanics breaking Republican. He doesn't have Netflix collapsing. Mask mandate repealed. Roe v. Wade overturned, and we can add here now all 22 of Trump's endorsed candidates winning their primaries. Are we winning? Yes, we're winning. We're moving into a post-secular age. I didn't believe it when I first read this scholarship back in 2008. I didn't believe it either, 2009 or so. Obama was coronated as king of globalism. Merkel was on her throne. I mean, it was like, the world was just going to go more and more globalist, more and more secular, more and more World Economic Forum. There's nothing we could do. And lo and behold, at Durham University, where they filmed the Harry Potters in this cool library, I discover this scholarship known as post-secular studies. And they say, no, that world's dying. It's falling apart. It will take time, but it is falling apart. And a new conservative world of traditionalist values is rising. And here we are. Roe v. Wade is getting overturned right in front of our very eyes. So thank you, Douglas. Thank you for that. Let's see. What do we got? I just got one in. Grace and God's favor be on your next great work. On your great work. I appreciate you. A. Dixon, I appreciate you. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, we're winning, guys. It is awesome, and but it does take time, and it does get frustrating, no question about it. And that's why I just try to give you some frames of reference that I've learned over the years of study of post-secular studies to help you try to make sense of both the good and the bad, right? Because part of post-secularism is that secularism has a stubborn way of hanging around for a while, which we're seeing, but we're also seeing fall apart. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it doesn't get more post-secular than the collapse of Roe v. Wade. Well, Alos, thank you again. For those who are still not sure about the change we can bring, just see Disney and Netflix right now. Yes, you, the people, are making a change. That cannot be said better. Brilliant, Alos, brilliant. You got it. They are falling. And that's what we're seeing happening all over the place with that teacher in Florida who just got fired. That was my argument in yesterday's video. If you haven't checked out, you're going to love that. There's the purge beginning now of these woke activist teachers, and it is happening not because of any phobia or anything like that. Ultra Mega Love from the UK, Peaky. I'd love to see you guys from across the pond. I haven't been out there in a long time. Have a John Smith's for me and for my sake tonight. We don't get John. Last I looked, we weren't able to get John Smith's here. That was my favorite beer out at the pubs when I was at Durham. But yeah, I said it's not because of any phobia that these teachers are getting purged and fired. It's because administrations are getting the same kind of heat from parents as these woke corporations at Netflix and Disney are getting from their customers. They can't be woke anymore. To get woke means going broke, and that even includes for schools. If administrators and school boards want to keep their jobs, they're going to stop imposing woke nonsense on the kids. All right. So what's going on here? What's the changes that's happening? The argument I'm making, thank you so much, Malins. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. The argument I'm making here is relatively simple. We can expect what happened on Tuesday to continue to happen over the course of the next few years in the Republican Party so that Rhinos will finally be purged. NEOCONS will finally be purged from the party precisely because a change is happening to the electorate, the Republican electorate. And as that change in electorate happened, just like what happened on the left got more and more woke at the electorate level, and now look at who they're putting into positions of power. Well, the right is becoming more and more ultra MAGA, and we can see more and more who they're going to be putting into power. Two changes. Write these down. There are two Ds, two changes going on among the electorate right now. Dealignment and defection. Write those down. Those are going to be important. Dealignment and defection. So if you want to know not just what's going on here in the States, but also in Britain, they had their local elections yesterday. We're seeing something very comparable going on there. Dealignment and defection. These are two broad dynamics that are happening here among Republican constituents, but also around the world. That's radically redefining politics and political parties. So dealignment involves the breakdown of the bonds that used to exist, I should say, between the traditional political parties and their constituents. And this breakdown in the bonds that voters have had with their traditional parties is making it easier for in the case of Europe, for new political parties to rise up, or in the case of the United States that's stuck in a two political party system, for new political challengers and new political leaders to rise up and offer to take the nation in a new direction. So, for example, in Britain, there's some of the studies that we have on this dealignment are relatively fresh and good. Sorry, I got Teresa. Why did Trump pick Oz? Now, I did talk about that a little bit, Teresa, earlier on. That's why I said you have to understand this from the vantage point of what's going on in the political party, where you're going to get a mixed bag, but then you're also going to have let me see. Sorry, hold on, I'm trying to hold. But you're also going to have to understand what's going on at the level of the political party proper, at the level of the grassroots proper, the constituents, because there's a lag time, kind of like with my feed here. There's a lag time between the changes that are going on in the constituents and the changes that go on in the political party. I don't know why he picked Oz. Check out my interview with Kathy Barnett. It's an excellent interview. It was just put up within the last week because she's been surging in the polls. Check out my interview with Kathy Barnett, and we talk a little bit about that. I mean, I have my theory, and I offer it there, but don't lose sight. Don't get too frustrated with things like that. That's what I'm trying to help you see the big picture of what's going on in terms of the changes in the Republican voter, which will eventually create the change in the political system itself. Silver Wheels, Patriot, I say Trump needs to handle foreign affairs and DeSantis for president. Okay. Yep, well, that's kind of neat. Trump is a little too big for that, though. He sucks all the oxygen out of the room, right? So either he's president or he's nothing. He don't go with the foreign affairs. But DeSantis, no question, will be a presidential candidate and a very, very successful one. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He knows that fighting the culture war now, the culture wars now, is a absolute awesome win for the Republican Party. The left has lost the culture wars entirely. So, for example, in Britain, let's talk about Dealignment. In Britain, in the 1960s, 1 out of 2 Brits, 50%, felt very strongly aligned to one of the traditional parties, Tories or Labour. In 2015, only 10%, 1 in 10 felt that way. Party loyalty has dropped from 50% to 10% in a matter of decades. And when you look at the Brexit issue, support for Brexit cut directly across the traditional party electorates, and it created an extraordinarily difficult situation for Labour. That's their left, their center-left party, for Labour MPs, members of Parliament, because virtually all Labour MPs were against Brexit, while at the same time a majority of their constituents, who were working class voters, were supporting it. Thank you so much, Blue Serin, very much, very appreciated. So this is Dealignment, where the constituents end up de-aligning themselves from any fidelity, any loyalty to a particular political party. And that's giving new political leaders the opportunity to take the country in a new direction. So in Europe, they tend to start new political parties, which are taking over as we speak. We have to remember in France, in the last first round of the presidential elections, their center-right Republicans and their center-left socialist parties. Those are your two major parties, historically, at least since the Fifth Republic was started by Charles de Gaulle in the, late 50s, 60s. All right, so the center-left socialists, that gave us Hollande, who was the president prior to Macron, and the Republicans gave us Sarkozy, and if I remember, Jacques Chirac and the like. These were your two major center-right parties, center-right, center-left parties for decades. In the last round of this Dealignment is so powerful in France right now. In the last first-round election, the candidates for the center-right and center-left didn't even break 10% of the votes. They did not have either. Jorge, Dr. Turley, have you given any thought to running for office, either state or federal level? What did Rush used to say? No, I don't. I can't take the pay cut or something. Well, I don't have Rush's money, but no, I really haven't. I enjoy the broadcasting. I enjoy the commentary, and so I feel like I am where I need to be at this point. We'll see where things lead in the future. But no, I really haven't. Not at all. Mitchell Ryan, what do you think of Tim Pool's remarks in the Civil War in America? Yeah, well, we've done a little talk on that. What would a civil war looks like? Because we did see a year ago last summer the whole notion of a ex-urban urban clash. And that was with the BLM, burning down urban centers. And they were starting to make their way into the suburbs. And that's when ex-urban Patriot militias came in and started pushing them back. Well, that's very much how the Colombian Civil War started in the 1940s, if I recall. That lasted 10 years. It was urban versus ex-urban. Ex-urban won, by the way. And that, I think, is something that could happen here if we have another breakout of BLM insanity, especially with the government sanctioning it, the Democrats and the government sanctioning it. then you'll see the rise of Patriot militias like never before. They've been growing by leaps and bounds. They've grown 10 times just in the last 10 years. So, or I'm sorry, they doubled in the last 10 years. So they'll just continue to do that. So yeah, it is. I think it is a very real possibility. It's not army versus army, as I would see it, but more exurb versus urban, with the suburbs being sort of your contested ground, as it were. So this is why I think we're seeing the center left and center right collapse. They're collapsing because of dealignment. People do not feel any loyalty anymore to any of the political parties. And here in the United States, where we are married to two parties, that's enabling someone like a Donald Trump, who's a third-party candidate, to win the nomination of a major party, okay? And so that's the first thing. We've seen dealignment. So the old politics of the neocons and the neolibs are just no longer relevant to the new voter, the new Republican voter, and increasingly the new Democrat voter as well, but that's its own thing. And then this dealignment is leading to defection. That's your second D. So these are the changes that are happening within the voter, the Republican voter. Dealignment and defection. So going back to Britain, with Labour's working class constituency supporting Brexit while their Labour politicians opposed it back in 2016, right? Then you had a new election happen in December of 2019, and the dam broke loose. Those white working class voters that supported Brexit, but who had always voted Labour, they defected, and they voted overwhelmingly for the Tories, for the Conservative Party, many of whom for the first time in their whole lives. That's this grand defection. They left Labour and joined the Conservatives. That's exactly what happened in 2016, that it changed American politics for the foreseeable future. What you had is you had nearly 200 counties in Iowa and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin that had voted for Democrat in every single presidential election since the 1980s. Iowa voted for Mike Dukakis. Iowa was one of the 10 states that voted for Dukakis, okay? They defected en masse, and those counties voted for Trump, some by a 20-point margin. And they kept that up again in 2020. Makes you wonder how things turned out the way they did. But they kept that up in 2020. And they will keep it up in 2022. They will keep it up in 2024. This is why J.D. Vance won his primary last Tuesday, because the white working class vote has so defected from the Democrats and joined the Republican Party in such numbers that even if Hillary Clinton back in 2016, even she got the same amount of Barack Obama's black vote that he got in 2008 and 2012, she still would have lost, because she lost white working class voters by that much, who again historically had voted Democrat. So what's happening here, gang, is that with J.D. Vance's victory, with Trump's 22 endorsed candidates all winning this past Tuesday, what we're beginning to see happen is that the new populist constituency, this populist rank-and-file Republican voter who is characterized by dealignment and defection, that voter is awakening a demand for a new kind of politics, and that's the populist political leader. And the two are increasingly, that is the changing voter and the changing party, are eventually going to come together and in effect remake the Republican Party in such a way that the RINO neocon no longer has a place. That's in effect what's happening as we speak. Valerie Rogers, do you think the demon rats will steal the midterms? Well, that will remain to be seen. I'm very optimistic given the way the Virginia election went. And again, it wasn't just Virginia, it was New Jersey, where someone like Ed Durr A truck driver spending only $200 on his campaign was able to unseat Steve Sweeney, probably the most powerful Democrat in New Jersey. He's the state Senate president. We saw it with the school boards throughout Pennsylvania, getting all these massive amounts of patriots voted on, and all the wacko libs voted off. So I'm very optimistic, particularly in relation to Bannon's precinct strategy, where even the New York Times produced a piece talking about how Republicans, for the first time ever, outnumbered Democrats in governing and policing precincts 2-1. They've never seen anything like that. DeSantis just passed a law in Florida that actually has an election police force who are tasked with making sure that election laws are enforced and any kind of shenanigans are immediately investigated and punished. So I tend to be very optimistic on that. Joe Biden isn't, of course, but but that's okay, right? Because we are now ultra MAGA, according to him. So in effect, that's what's happening, gang, as I understand it. It's not even so much that Rhino neocons are being deliberately purged. It's just that the world is changing in such a way, like what we saw in France, where, with the center right and center left in France, it didn't even break 10% of the vote combined. The world has changed in such a way they just don't have a place in it anymore. The social dynamics surrounding an increasingly post-globalist politics is just squeezing the neocon Rhino out of existence, and it's making it virtually impossible for them to win elections. Now, again, obviously, this is a process. That's what I keep reminding you guys of. Thank you for that super chat. We said thank you, Dr. Turley, for the years of optimism and so forth. We are moving in a post-secular age, but we're going to hit walls. Well, they turn out to be speed bumps when you look at it from a wider lens, but we do hit a lot of frustrations in the process. The Brits are facing it right now with Bojo, Boris Johnson. He was elected as a populist, but he's governed as a neocon liberal. So this is going to take time, no question. But I think when all's said and done, I think that the purge of the neocon from conservative politics is really happening as the changing sentiments of the electorate increasingly align with an inevitably changing political party. All right, that's all I got for you today. Let's see, we've got a couple of questions here. What you got, BG Tamir? Thoughts on what Tennessee did to Starbucks? You missed you. There we go. All right. Case with, do you think the blueprint will spread with Rhino support to take out Trump? Oh, okay. All right. Got it. All right. I didn't know what you meant. I was thinking Starbucks coffee. All right. So thoughts on what Tennessee did to Starbucks, and what do I think about the Marjorie Taylor Greene case in Georgia? Do you think the blueprint will spread with Rhino support to take out Trump populists? Absolutely. Again, they're going to do anything and everything they can to try to hold on to their power, but it's all for naught. That's just what, again, you see it, the immediate results and what's happening in the 24/7 news cycle, but you got to take a step back. And if anything, those shenanigans are only going to guarantee the eventual neocon neolib demise, because it's going to unleash a populist giant of frustration and anger. That's what I would say. Fadista, how can we get our representatives to stop the American NATO nuclear war agenda? Good question on that. Well, vote for more J.D. Vances. That's what you got to do. Yeah. Push back. Don't buy into all this nonsense that you see surrounding Ukraine. And, I've been very, very clear where I've come from the very beginning on this. At the end of February, Russia is our first post-globalist civilization state. It is taking eastern Ukraine with it because of, at least for their argument, is from Putin's own words that resonate profoundly with the Russian population, 80% approval rating. We have to understand that the provocations of NATO was a part of that narrative that he has woven together over the course of about 15 years, ever since his speech at the 2007 Munich Security Council, which you can watch on YouTube, which, again, he was one of 3 Russian presidents that said you cannot, along with John Mearsheimer, along with what's his name, Kennan, and others, who's the author of Containment Theory, you cannot expand NATO eastward without provoking Russia ultimately at some point to military response. You cannot do it. And NATO ignored him. NATO laughed at him. Oh, you're a bunch of drunken Russians. You know, you've got the economy the size of South Korea. You can't do nothing to us. Well, here we are. Again, for right or for wrong, this is not pro-Putin talking points. For right or for wrong, this is what is happening. This is what is part of the ushering in of a new post-globalist age, the rise of the civilization state. China and India are right there, right along with Russia as well. So you just got to keep pushing back at it and saying this idea of trying to start a war with Russia is utterly and absolutely asinine and insane, and it serves absolutely no American purpose whatsoever. So just keep pushing back at it. All right, let's see what we go. Yeah. Where did I leave off of? We didn't have ministries. We have debt, boroughs, and agencies. This is America. Our minister are on church. There you go. Yeah, our ministers are in church. Sure. Very good, Valerie. Kyung Anderson, thank you so much for that. Very, very kind of you. All right, guys. I missed this one, incognito. How do you show disenfranchised Dems continue vote Republicans after overturn of Roe v. Wade? Since left has united, they will push to end filibuster if... I'm trying to get this. I'm not very good with shorthand. How do you show disenfranchised Dems continue vote Republicans after overturn of Roe v. Wade since left has united? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. I'm sorry, incognito. I don't think Manchin's going to buckle. I don't think Sinema are going to buckle. Manchin has a 70% pro-life constituency. He is not going to buckle. Sinema may, but again, Arizona is at the local level is incredibly conservative. Remember, all the overturning of Roe v. Wade does is send the abortion issue back to the states. It treats us like grown-ups again. We get to actually, thank you, Randy, and some pounds sterling. Thank you, sir. Very, very much appreciated. We get to actually discuss and decide for ourselves what our abortion policies will be. And we'll continue to become a thoroughly red versus blue structured nation. And we'll all have to make our decisions of where we're going to want to live. Do we want to live in states that support this kind of wacko, woke left-wing nonsense, or are we going to go to states that stand up for life and stand up for the Constitution? That's, I think, in the end, what we're all going to have to, the decisions we're all going to have to make. Me, especially me, first being in Delaware. All right, let's see. Got some late questions coming in. What do we got here, Coach? Can we celebrate Elon Musk's great accomplishment during African-American history? Coach, you're hilarious. Oh, I love it. Can we celebrate Elon Musk's great accomplishments during African-American History Month? Of course you can't, because that month, of course, is for a very particular political platform. It's not for that of Elon Musk, silly. Oh, Coach, you. Yeah, I did see a meme, a tweet or a meme, something like, it's so sad to see so many leftists upset about Twitter when, we're seeing for the very first time an African-American take over, a major Silicon Valley big tech platform. It's so sad, There you go, Coach. That was great. Mark Payne, I'd love to see you on Timcast talking to Tim Pool concerning Texas politics. Oh, is Tim down in Texas? Sure. Yeah. Or someone like Dan Miller, of Texit. Again, that's part of part of the interesting dynamics that's emerging, and we'll talk about it next week. I meant to talk about it this week, but we'll talk about it next week and some of the developments going on with Russia and Ukraine. But we're seeing three different kinds of dynamics arise. We're seeing the rise, of course, of the civilization state. We're seeing the rise, that's Russia, China, and India. We're seeing the rise of renewed nationalism, civic nationalism, which is what we're seeing with President Trump or Marine Le Pen or Matteo Salvini or Viktor Orban of Hungary, Mateusz Morawiecki of Poland and the like. And we're seeing renewed regionalism, a renewed secessionism based on region, religion, and race. And that's, of course, what we're seeing in Texas, which is more of a regional. It's not so much religious and race-based. Obviously, Texas is a particular religion or race. But we're seeing a definite regionalism taking over there, wanting to basically saying that Washington, D.C. is through its past any reform. Texas is going to have to break away. And you're just seeing those kind of secessionist sentiments all over the place. In many respects, that's kind of what red and blue are already doing. They're sort of almost territorial, not legally formal, but almost sort of territorial secessionist tendencies that are changing our politics like never before into a post-globalist politics. Would you be with Louder and Crowder? Tim thinks California will turn Texas purple. We've got, well, sir, of course, I'd love to be on with Steven Crowder. I love Steven Crowder. Mark, you say Tim Pool thinks California will turn Texas purple. Yeah, so we have the data in on that, and it's just not happening. Let's see if it's reconnecting. We are reconnected. Good. It didn't take too long. All right. I don't know what happened there. My streaming service went out on us. But Mark, the data that we have on that, ironically, is that California voters are actually, believe it or not, more conservative than Texan voters in terms of the ones that come out, the left UGs. We have some data that shows that if only native Texans voted in the 2018 Senate election, Beto O'Rourke would be senator by about 1 or 2% of the vote. Again, keep in mind, Ted Cruz did not ingratiate himself to a lot of people, so a lot of the Texas Republicans didn't come out to vote. But no, it was actually, ironically, it was the California transplants that voted for Cruz overwhelmingly, and they put him over the top. So, and then also what we're seeing again that dealignment and defection. Hispanics are starting to vote Republican like never before. So in a lot of these, thank you, Goose, in a lot of these Rio Grande areas that there are these border districts. Thanks so much, Jason. You keep up the great work, brother. Thank you so much. In a lot of these border districts with Mexico, they're 85% Latino. They've been voting Democrat by 14 points. They're now defecting in mass and voting Republican because they're now seeing that Republicans are the party of border sanity. They're the party of pro-life. Latinos are the most pro-life demographic in our politics, and they like the kind of nationalist, populist, machismo figure. I'm not trying to stereotype, but we know that certain constituents tend to like a more strong leader. Certainly Russians do. And as it turns out, Hispanic voters seem to as well. And they see someone like Trump or DeSantis as being somebody who's willing to fight and push back against a political constituency that they see as a very real threat to their well-being. All right, guys, that's going to be about it for me. Wonderful chatting with you guys. Make sure to click on that link below. Sign up for our webinar, free training webinar on canceling cancel culture next Friday, May 13th at 2 p.m. Again, we are down to the last spots. We only have software that can handle 3,000 registrations. Again, this is free, so people have been registering at record numbers. We only have a few slots left. Before you leave this stream, click on the link below and sign up for an awesome Canceling Cancel Culture webinar. You're going to absolutely love it. We'll be together 2 p.m. Eastern Friday. I believe it's going to be recorded, so if you can't make it, just make sure you get the recording. But the only way you get that recording is if you reserve your seat, all right? So make sure you reserve your seat right now. Can't wait to see you the next Friday. Gang, what an amazing week. What a Roe v. Wade getting overturned. What an unbelievable week for the rise of a new conservative age. You are the best. God bless you. Stay strong, and I'll see you on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend.